بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين صلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. We talked about the relation between body and soul, and we said that when we die, Allah says He receives us. He doesn't say I receive part of you because I am not taking body. Allahu yatawaffal anfus. Or elsewhere, قُلْ يَتَوَفَّاكُمْ مَلَكُ الْمَوْتِ الَّذِي وُكِّلَ بِكُمْ. Tell them the angel of death is receiving you. When we say you, it doesn't mean part of you. Yeah? So our spirit is what makes us what we are, not our body. Our body is something that we temporarily are using. Sometimes we are okay, healthy, sometimes we are ill, sometimes we may use part of our body. But what makes us is our soul. Even sometimes, maybe some problems happen in the body that the connection and communication between body and soul is disturbed. Yeah? For example, we say this person has Alzheimer. This person has forgotten, for example, maybe sometimes even his children. But this doesn't mean that the soul has forgotten. The soul has not forgotten, or has not forgotten necessarily. It depends how much these things were important for the soul. If they were important for the soul, soul remembers. Any knowledge that becomes part of our soul will come with us to the next world. Anything that you have taken on board and has become part of you, it comes with. Anything which is just superficial, you have heard something, but you have never taken it seriously. The pressure of death make you forget. Yeah, like a student. If a student has really understood the subject, exam has no stress, and even if he has a stress, he doesn't forget because he has really mastered this subject. But if someone has just prepared quickly himself for exam, he forgets. When the pressure is over, he says, "Oh, I knew this. Why I forgot?" So, when someone forgets in dunya something, it doesn't mean that that is erased from his soul. Yeah? So, communication between body and soul continues, and this communication can even continue after death. I want to explain for you something. There are people that after many years, when they unearth their body, when they opened for some reason, or the grave collapsed, or they wanted to move them, after many years, after hundreds of years, they found the body fresh. We have many stories. How body can remain fresh after so many years? Of course, it's power of Allah, but power of Allah has a mechanism. How does it work? My understanding is that because their souls are strong, Allah allows the soul to still run the body partially. Because it is soul that runs the body, does tadbir of body. Yeah? So when we are awake, we are fully operating. When we are asleep, this is reduced to minimal activities. Still, body is running and soul is controlling it. It's not that the body is just doing by itself. It's the soul. But the soul doesn't need to pay lots of attention because only some basic activities are taking place and the soul is managing it. When we die, still it's possible that the soul has attention to the body and runs something in the body. This is one of the reasons why we say we have to be very respectful to the body of a dead person. One of the many reasons. Because the soul still is concerned about this body. If you burn the body, if you put it in acid, as some people do now, you are torturing this person. They think, this person is dead, doesn't understand. Why he doesn't understand? Because you don't think this person understands, doesn't mean that he doesn't understand. Soul is responsible for understanding, and soul gets the pain still when the body is in bad condition. So, there are lots of ways that soul and body interact. But in this process, what is interesting is that body has a cycle. Body gets stronger and stronger, then after some time goes into decline. So when you are in your 40, balagha ashuddah, you reach your peak of your strength. Normally, of course there are exceptions, but normally up to 40 there is growth. After 40, your body goes down. But what about the soul? The soul grows and reaches its youth, which is when you are very vital, very vibrant, very active. Salam alaikum. If you give iman to this soul, it remains always young. And this is why in heaven we don't have any old person. Because in the heaven, your soul makes the body. Your soul makes your body. In dunya, body sometimes limits us. You want to study, body is tired, doesn't let you study. Sometimes your body has problem with the hormones, etc. You are affected. But in the hereafter, soul makes the body. So if the soul is young, then body also will look like. So, our body goes into decline, soul grows and it can grow and it can grow, or it's possible that some people don't let their soul grow. The soul is aging. And I have my idea that we have age of body and age of soul. These are different. Sometimes body is body of a child, but the soul is very mature. Like Isa alayhi salam. We only think about age of body. Age of body is not the main thing. The main thing is age of the soul. Some souls very fast get mature. Some souls, even if they are 20, 30, they are still like a child. Yeah. So, the soul has its own growth. If we act properly, a time would come that your soul feels that there is not that much need for body. You have grown. Your soul is now more willing to go to the next stage. Wants to go from this world. Body is a cage for the soul. The soul is just waiting when this cage is opened. You see, sometimes the bird is in the cage, it's just looking for the cage to be open and go. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, in khutbatul muttaqeen, لولا الآجال التي كتب الله عليهم لم تستقر أرواحهم في أجسادهم طرفة عين أبدا. Had it not been that Allah has written for them their ajal, there is a deadline for them, they have to observe. If there was no such consideration that Allah has ajal fixed for them, لم تستقر أرواحهم في أجسادهم. Their spirits, their souls would not have remained in their body for طرفة عين, for an eye blink. This soul doesn't have qarar. Qarar means stability. Because the bird wants to go to another world, wants to go where it comes from. But has to remain patient because they cannot kill themselves, they cannot commit suicide because it's them damaging the whole purpose. Yeah, they have to wait. So, you see, sometimes in the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, despite the fact that they very much appreciate life and very much are grateful for the gift of life, but when they come to talking about death, is different. For them, death is not something bitter. Death is not something which is a sign of, incompletion or, a sign of failure. No, quite opposite. When they talk about death, there is excitement. They just feel it's, something of a better quality. Sometimes someone says, for me, life and death is the same. No, they say, we are more eager for death. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, Wallahi labnu abi talib anasu bil maut min at-tifl bi-thadyi ummih. He doesn't say, for me death is okay. We have to die, I am ready for death. No, he says, I am more eager. And this to me is even more pleasing than the breast of mother for a child who needs to be fed. And it's not only feeding. Now doctors tell us, scientists said that actually when the child is in the arm of mother, hears the heartbeat of the mother and feels, sukoon, calm. So it's not just feeding, it's also psychological. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, I am more acquainted with death. I am more enjoying death than a child who is hungry and crying and is put in the arm of mother and then relaxes. But this is not only Amir al-Mu'mineen. Everyone in that family is like this. So from Amir al-Mu'mineen to Ali Akbar is the same mentality. Because they know that there is much greater waiting for us. Yeah? If there was a way for embryo to understand what is there after delivery, if the embryo was able to understand, then would be very eager to finish this period and go to the next stage. But because the embryo doesn't understand, like us when we don't understand, it's very difficult to think about anything. We think it's end of ours, we are going to finish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ هَادُوا إِنْ زَعَمْتُمْ أَنَّكُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ لِلَّهِ مِنْ دُونِ النَّاسِ فَتَمَنَّهُ الْمَوْتِ إِنْ كُنْتُمْ صَادِقِينَ. You say we are awliyaullah and no one else. We have a test for you. If you are awliyaullah, فَتَمَنَّهُ الْمَوْتِ. You must desire death if you are truthful. Because awliyaullah want to join Allah sooner. In this world we have some distance. Liqa'ullah is there. If you are awliyaullah, you must be eager for liqa'ullah. If you are attached to this dunya and you want to live here for 1,000 years, so why you say I'm awliyaullah? We are very grateful for every second of life. But for us, the value of life is not essential. We are interested in every second of life. Why? Because we want to do something for the next life. So where is our main interest? Our main interest in the next life, not this life. So if we have this understanding, if we have set up our priorities properly, then by the growth of our soul, our attachment to this life would become less and less. You are not attached to anything. You may have money, but you are not attached to it. You may have children, you are not. You may have power, respect, but you are not attached to anything. And you may have nothing and you are attached to dunya. Because you want to continue and so that you gain what you don't have. Actually, sometimes those who don't have, they are more greedy. Because they think this is going to solve the problem. But those who have, if they are a little bit clever, they realize that this is not solving my problem. I need something better. Those who are not clever, they think no, they have to have more. If they are not satisfied because they don't have more. But those who are clever, no, this is not going to satisfy me. I need something greater. I don't need something more. I need something greater. So, we are like fruits of a tree. When the fruit becomes ripe, it can easily be picked up. If the fruit is not ripe, it's raw. It's so much attached to the branch that sometimes when you want to take it, the whole branch is broken.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
For some people, their death is just like changing dress. For some people, it's like peeling their skin, like removing their nails. Why? Because they are not ripe. They are not ready. Either you prepare yourself and then with joy you depart, or you will be forced. There is no way, إذا جاء أجلهم لا يستقدمون ساعة ولا يستأخرون. It's the season of picking up the fruits. They don't say, we can wait for you a few more months. If a fruit is ripe or not, it's the season. Your time is coming to end. So, people who are very ready, for them death is not something troublesome, something ugly. death is like honey. Death is freedom. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, Fuztu wa Rabbil Kaaba. There is a kind of fawz, a kind of winning and success that Amir al-Mu'mineen achieved when he was martyred. With all the things that he had, he didn't have that fawz. Yes? He never said this before. So there is something that only with death you can achieve. With departure, it's like graduation. Unless you graduate, you cannot go to the next. If you say, I enjoy a school. Okay, how much you enjoy a school? You have to enjoy the school, but you must prepare yourself for the next stage. Learn, benefit, but you have to go to the next stage. I want to share with you a very beautiful, moving story. And I wrote it down about 15 years ago, and I read for you because I want to be very accurate. This is said by the late Allama Muhammad Taqi Ja'fari. Allama Muhammad Taqi Ja'fari passed away several years ago. He was a very great scholar, a mujtahid, a philosopher, an arif. He has commentary on Nahjul Balagha. He has commentary on Mathnawi. He has many books. He's a great scholar, very pious. He says that when he was in Najaf, at some point he studied in Najaf, one of his teachers was Sheikh Murtaza Taliqani, Rahmatullah alayhi, a very pious scholar who had actually also not married. So he was living in Hawza, in Madrasa, with the Talaba. He was a great teacher, but was living in school. He says, 2 days before Muharram, towards the end of the Hajj, maybe a few days before Muharram, I went for dars. He says, فرمودند آقا told me برای چه آمدی آقا. This was the time, every day at this time we had dars, but when I went, he said برای چه آمدی آقا, why have you come? He said, I come for dars, to take lessons. He said برو آقا, درس تمام شد. You may go, finish, that's lesson finished. He said, I told myself, maybe Agha means because Muharram is approaching, and normally Hawzas stop in Muharram, or they may have other programs because Talaba can go to Tabligh. But he said, I thought maybe Agha is referring to Muharram, but still we have a few days. So he said, I thought maybe this is the reason. I said, Agha, still we have, 2 days, actually here it says 2 days, 2 days to Muharram. Sheikh Murtaza Taliqani said, La ilaha illallah, but in a different way. Midanam Agha, I know, Muharram has not come. به شما میگویم درس تمام شد. I don't say we don't have dars. I said dars finished. خر طالقان رفته پالانش مانده. With maximum humility. He said this donkey from Talaqan, because he was from this Talaqan in Iran. He said donkey has gone, only the sandal has remained. I am not in a position to teach. My soul has gone. Ruh rafte, jasadash mande. The soul has gone, just the body is here. Allama Ja'fari says, خدا را شاهد میگیرم. Allah is my witness. There was no sign of illness. He was like any other day. So he says, I realized that he's informing me about his death. I said, please tell me something as my last, opportunity to learn something from you, some advice. He said another time, La ilaha illallah. And then his tears, came down. He said, he told me, this was his advice. تا رسد دستت به خود شو کارگر. تا رسد دستت به خود شو کارگر. Means, as long as your hand reaches yourself, do something. A time comes that you cannot even move your hand. Even you cannot move your lips. تا رسد دستت به خود. دست means hand. رسد means reach. So as long as your hand reaches yourself, do something. چون فوتی از کار خواهی زد به سر. When you are not able to do anything, then you just beat yourself, beat your head. Why I didn't use my time? This is my advice for you, he said. Then he said, La ilaha illallah, in a very special way. He said, I went to kiss his hand, but he strongly withheld his hand, didn't let me. So he said, I kissed his forehead, I kissed his beard, and some of his tears touched me. And he says, I cannot forget the tears of this musafir ilallah. He says, after a few days, we were sitting in our madrasa, and it was Muharram. The Sheikh who was going to give us lecture for Muharram was Sheikh Sadr Ali Khurasani, or Muhammad Ali Khurasani, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Khurasani. He sat on member, and after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Sheikh Murtaza Taliqani has passed away. We went to, he said, go for funeral. He said, we went to his madrasa. He was living in the madrasa for Sahibul Urbe. He said, when we were there, I asked Talabe, what happened, Baba? How was our last night? He said, he was very normal. Like every day, 1 hour before Fajr, he went to the roof. He did his quiet tahajjud on the roof. Then at the time of Adhan, he went to his room and he did his Salatul Fajr. Then after sunrise, we saw Abba has not come out. We went there and we found him, he has passed away. He had his tahajjud, everything, but he was aware of his death. So, how this is possible? The answer is, this is very possible because this person has grown with his soul and reached a stage that now body has fallen behind. The soul has departed. The soul is no longer attached. This person is free person. We have a concept in philosophy and irfan. We call it voluntary death. There are people that when they decide, they can leave the body and go freely, and then they go back to the body. This is called maut ikhtiyari. You know Attar. Have you heard Attar, the famous poet? Attar al-Nayshaburi. He has many books like Tazkiratul Awliya. Attar was not a mystic or Sufi. He became later very, spiritual. He was Attar. Attar means someone who sells perfume as, like a grocery, etc. One day an old man went to him and talked about, spirituality, etc. And then in front of the shop of Attar, he lied down and died. Attar was very surprised that this person has died without any, sign, anything. And then again that person came back and gave him a lesson that life is not just busyness. Life is something greater. And from that day, Attar changed his life. He became very spiritual. Hakim Haydaji was a great philosopher in Tehran. In his philosophy lectures, he was against the idea of voluntary death. He said it's impossible. He was arguing philosophically that it's impossible. One day in his hujra, in his room, a person who looked like a peasant, a place from village, went to him and said, Agha, why you deny voluntary death? He said, we have discussions, we have arguments, because he thought this person is not going to understand. Then that person died in front of him. He was shocked and, informed Talaba, let's do something, if police finds out, that this Talaba and this Sheikh have killed someone, what should we do with this person? So all of them, came to his room and they were discussing what should we do. And then he said something like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and sat back. Hakim said, you killed me. He said, Agha, these things you cannot understand only through a study. So these are people sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When they see someone has good potential, Allah gives them lesson. Allah sends His awliya to awaken them. They say Hakim Haydaji from that, although he wasn't pious, but he became very spiritual. So, if soul is not attached to dunya and is just working with the body as long as it is in this dunya, soul is free. And this soul can then understand things beyond the body. I cannot understand what is happening in the next room. Why? Because my body is here. Is my soul here and not there? No. My soul is neither in this room nor in that room. Soul has no place. Why my understanding is limited to this room? Because of my body. Because my soul, to connect to this world, has an instrument, has a tool, has a window to this world, and that is my body, my eyes. But my soul is much greater. But I'm not able. Imagine if you are greatest sportsman. Yeah? You can move car. But we give you a tooth, a stick, what they call? Toothpick. You say you can only use this to move things. How much you can move? You say, I move a car, but this can only help you to move a little. Otherwise, we break.
Yes.
A mu'min tries to use the body to the maximum. Therefore, hadith says, "Badanuhu minhu fi ta'ab." Body of mu'min is tired because mu'min is using his body, properly. He's not lazy. But how much you can do with this body? There's a limit. You can see wide angle, yeah? Maybe, I don't know, 200 something degree we can see, yeah? But if I say, look through this keyhole, how much you can see? We are saying to the soul, you must look through these eyes. That's how much the soul can see. We cannot see that much. Not because soul cannot understand. We have forced the soul to look through the keyhole. There are many things being said in this room. Right now, angels are talking to us. But we are forcing our soul to hear through these little ears. You cannot understand. If soul can get rid of these limitations, then if someone speaks in another part of the world, the soul can understand. If someone is speaking another language, the soul can understand. How? Maybe you say, how can the soul understand other languages? The soul can understand what is the other soul meaning to say. Language is not needed. Language is for this tongue and ear. We communicate without tongue and ear. So language is not a barrier. If you talk to Imam Zaman doesn't need interpretation. Not because he knows all the languages necessarily. He doesn't need to know any language because language is a means. Therefore, maybe this person mistakenly says something. Yeah? Grammatically is incorrect. But he understands what he means. With my broken language, I cannot express myself, but he hears me. As if I am the most eloquent person. This is the power of the soul. Unfortunately, we are depriving our soul from its independence, from its growth. And unfortunately, the modern culture is not helping at all. The minimum to say. We are putting lots of ropes around the soul and attaching to this dunya. Allah says, إِثَّاقَلْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Imagine a bird. If you put some weight and fasten to the legs, the feet of the bird, or a flight, plane, if you put hundreds of tons of weight, it cannot take off. Even if it takes off, goes down. Some years ago, actually one person from home also was in Latin America in a plane, because they had put too much, weight. They crashed. Attachment to dunya doesn't let the soul to fly. Soul belongs to heaven. Bird must be in the air. Bird is not happy to be put in a cage. What has happened to us that we enjoy being in cage? What is wrong with us? We enjoy, being in this cage. But we say, no, let me paint this cage. Let me put, nice furniture in the cage. And then we fight over this cage. This is the problem of us. All prophets, all awliyaullah have come to tell us, you deserve much better than this. We say, no, this is, good for us. This is the problem. So if we understand what the soul can achieve and let it achieve that, let it grow, then for us, this life would be very valuable, but just as a means, as a transient situation, as a passage. This dunya is a passage. It's not a station to say, I want to stay here forever. Yeah? Imagine you are traveling with someone going to Scotland, for example. On motorway there's a station, you go to get petrol and drink something. He says, I want to build a house here. It's a nice place. He said, Baba, we are not going to be here. He said, no, I want, He wastes your time and energy. He says, I want to build a house here. We are like this. This dunya is just a transient situation. But unfortunately, we are so sticky that with everything we want just to be there attached. We want to make everything permanent. Nothing is going to be permanent in dunya. Everything is going to finish. Just, you are like a person. They tell you, we are going to travel for a few days. We have no other shops. We give you 5 minutes. Go to this shop, take what you want, and come. We go. Some people are clever. They go quickly, buy the most important things, and come. Some people go that they are not clever. They buy things that they are not that important. Some people go and start fighting and, quarreling, etc., wasting their time without getting anything. Some people start, stealing money. What can you do with money? There is no other shop. You have to buy some goods. You cannot take money of people with you. You cannot even use your own money. So, we have to wake up. Inshallah, we will continue this discussion. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open the eyes of our soul so that we can see what He has prepared for us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our achievement in our life nearness to Him, His pleasure, being next to Muhammad and Ala Muhammad. These are the things that we can call achievement. Anything else is not achievement. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shifa to all people who are ill. We request Allah to send His rahmah and maghfirah to all mu'mineen and mu'minat who have passed away. We ask Allah to bless parents who are alive with health and dignity and joy, and those who have passed away to receive Allah's utmost mercy. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make our Imam Zaman happy with us and to make his faraj soon and easy. And we ask Allah to make the last moment of our life the best moment of our life. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.